Welcome back to Attorneys on Call. We're talking about workers' compensation. But actually, what is workers' compensation? It's not just so clearly defined. Ben, kind of for our viewers, kind of walk them through the 101 of what actually is workers' compensation.
So workers' compensation, very simply, is an insurance program that pays people when they get hurt at work.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just keep it. That's probably the most simple way to put it. It's got a lot of rules, a lot of different ins and outs, a lot of traps that we're getting ready to talk about. But it's just an insurance program.
Okay.
Where sometimes your job controls it. Sometimes they are self-insured, which means they're usually a big company. So real big corporations, they usually are self-insured, and they use a company like Sedgwick or some of these other administrators to deal with it for them. Or you may just be an insurance program that you have, like with the Hartford or the Travelers. So when you're dealing with workers' comp as an injured worker, you're going to be dealing with an insurance company, because that's what it does. It pays for your medicals and it pays for your wages. I kind of think about workers' comp as like these, when I explain it, it's like two buckets. One bucket is your medical, and the second bucket is your wages.
Okay.
And you don't get your wage bucket unless the doctor says that you can't work. Then it's just your medical bucket. So those are the only two things that workers' comp does. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't pay for pain and suffering. It doesn't pay for some of the other things that we think about when we get hurt. So those are the things that we have to be kind of mindful of as you kind of deal in the world of workers' comp. Because it's an insurance program, and insurance companies are usually sneaky, it can be problems. You know, insurance companies, adjusters are kind of always looking out for ways to, and I hate saying this, but sometimes trick you out of benefits. So let's get to it then.
Yeah.
The number one trap, giving a recorded statement to an insurance adjuster before talking to a lawyer. Okay, so one of the traps that I see a lot is times somebody, they get hurt at work, and the friendly neighborhood insurance adjuster calls them up a couple days later and says, "Hey Jim, I heard you got hurt at work. Do you mind if I take a statement so we can make sure you get your benefits?" Or say something very comforting like
Something that sounds just,
right.
Doesn't sound bad.
Doesn't sound bad, no.
Yeah.
So one of the things they may ask you is, what were you doing when you got hurt? You know, were you at work, or were you doing something else? Were you going somewhere at the time?
Okay.
They may ask you, was it an accident, or is this something that you normally do? Is this something like you normally do? If my job is to pick up this coffee cup and put it down, and that's just my job all day long, and I get hurt doing that because I have too much repetitive motion, that's not a workers' comp claim, because there's not an accident. If this had hot water in it, spills on me, and it burns my hand, then that's a workers' comp case, because
that's an accident.
Because it's an accident. So the insurance adjuster is going to be asking questions to see if they can get the accident or not accident out.
It does sound kind of sneaky.
It can be sneaky. One thing to think about is that, well, some people ask, well, what if I get hurt on the way to work?
Yeah.
Or hurt on the way leaving work? Well, there's a rule for that. It's called the going and coming rule. So if you're going to work or coming from work, it's not a workers' compensation case. Maybe that sneaky insurance adjuster is going to try to trap you with that, okay? But you may not have a case, it may not be one, and that's why it's time to get a free consultation with the lawyer. You know, with that going to work and coming from work, you know, one time, Drew, I won a case because, well, that's usually the rule, but you know what lawyers do. I mean, every time there's a rule, there's an exception to the rule.
Sure.
So I represented a construction superintendent. He was building the different, we see the big pharmaceutical, pharmacy/grocery store places. And he was the main guy. He was building them everywhere. And he wanted to go look at one of his job sites, and took his motorcycle to go see the job site. To drive there, because he enjoyed driving it. And he got in a bad accident on the motorcycle. Well, the insurance company, workers' comp, said not workers' comp. He was going and coming to work. Well, there's an exception. It says if you're a supervisor, you're kind of always at work. You're kind of always involved with it. So then there's no rule for that. So that's how we won that case. So trap number one, be careful about giving a recorded statement to an insurance company.
Before talking to an attorney.
Before talking to an attorney. And like I said earlier, you can talk to an attorney for free at our firm and many other firms to get some free information about your claim.
Whitney, when people call you and ask you these types of questions, it is a free consultation. Will they typically say, well, I was driving to work and I got hurt, or there's an exception, correct, if the person's like a salesperson and they use their car for their job, or how does that work?
Sure. So someone called recently, and she thought she was calling about a workers' comp claim. She had parked, and it was a larger structure. She worked at a store kind of in the bigger strip mall type area. She's walking on her way into work. thought she had a workers' comp claim, but she didn't. She may have a personal injury claim based on how she fell and whether there was something negligently done with the sidewalk and it being well kept.
Oh, okay.
But she wasn't at work. She was going and coming. She doesn't have a workers' comp claim necessarily.
Okay.
So there are some really sneaky pitfalls if you don't ask the right questions, if you don't talk to someone who's
Yeah.
on your side
Right.
or who's at least objective at the very best, which the insurance company isn't, you may miss out on.
Now, once again, it is a free consultation, and it doesn't hurt to call, or they can go on the website, whitleylawfirm.com, and email, and one of the attorneys will get back as well.
Right. So a second trap number 2, Drew, is not reporting your injury in writing. So the law says
In writing.
In writing. So the law says that within 30 days of getting hurt, you have to put it in writing to your employer. Okay, and that can be an email, that can be a text message, or that can be a form that your employer has. If you work for a big company, they're going to have a form for
Yeah.
you. But if it's a smaller company or something else, or just to cover yourself, remember it's all about covering yourself to make sure that they don't have a sneaky way to get out of it. Is put that in writing that you got hurt.
An email to your boss.
An email to your boss, a text message to your boss. Hey, I was lifting, my back pulled, popped, whatever it may be. I need to go see a doctor.
Okay.
One of the things that keeps people, one of the reasons I see people falling into this trap is that they think they're going to get fired.
Okay.
They think that that they'll shake it off. Oh, I hurt my back a little bit, but I tell you, I'm a tough guy. I'm going to walk it off. It's going to be fine. I don't need to cause any trouble. Okay. And then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later, they've got a serious back problem, but they didn't put it in writing. Okay, just like we talked about before, there are exceptions to those rules, but the thing to keep in mind for today's purposes is put it in writing, send a text message, an email, whatever it takes to get it in writing, to not fall into that trap.
That's trap number 2.
That's trap number 2. Trap number 3 is not telling your doctor everything that hurts. Okay, I had a case once where my client had a very bad knee injury, and the knee injury was a very painful injury. And when she went to the doctor, they were focused on the knee, but it was a fall, okay? And when she fell, she had also felt some pain in her back, but she didn't report that in that first visit to the doctor.
Okay.
A couple of weeks go by, and then the back is not going away. The knee they've got managed, and now she's asking, can I see a doctor for the back?
For the back.
That sneaky insurance company says, no, you didn't report any back injury to us. You only reported the knee injury.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So that's why, in case people we don't want to fall into this trap, because remember, a lot of times you're thinking, I don't want to be a complainer. People naturally are not complaining.
Right.
They don't want to make trouble. So they think, okay, well, my knee's hurt. I feel a little something in my back. Maybe that's going to go away. I won't mention that to the doctor. Mention everything, even if you don't think it's serious, because what you want, anytime you go to a doctor, everything that you say to that doctor gets put in the very first paragraph of that doctor's record. It's called the history.
Okay.
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 These doctors, and that's also what you put when you go. You go to a doctor. The very first little sheet that they give you on a clipboard, and they say, fill this out.
Right. Right.
And they ask you to list what's going on.
My shoulder hurts or my knee. Right.
That little slip of paper, the sneaky insurance company, their lawyers have used that against my clients before because they didn't write on there what was hurt.
Really?
And they went and dug around, they found that little clipboard piece of paper, and it becomes part of the record. And they said, well, you didn't write that you had a back injury here.
Okay.
You must not have had a back injury. Now, how could you say now that you have a back injury?
Oh, okay.
So when I say that trap is tell the doctor everything, that means if you go into the doctor's office and they've got a form for you to fill out, write it down too, in addition to telling, because you want it to appear in that little history paragraph. Because down the road, when if the problem develops, we can go back and say, listen, it was reported initially in that report.
Okay, great. So we've got 3 traps done, right?
That's right.
So we want to make sure that you talk to an attorney before you make a statement.
Right.
You want to make sure that within 30 days you email your boss or your company about your injury and keep a copy of that for yourself.
Keep a copy of that yourself. And that can be a text message or an email.
And then make sure you tell your doctor everything that hurts and
Right.
every issue that you may have.
So the 4th trap is hiring, and this may even sound like a self-serving comment, but hiring a lawyer who does not have experience in workers' comp and is not board certified in workers' comp. And that's a trap. I've seen it before. I have taken calls from people who have hired attorneys that are, injury attorneys, that hold themselves out as injury attorneys, but that don't specialize in workers' compensation. And and a lot of times those cases are messed up.
Okay.
Okay, and I've had to come in before in a case where and essentially clean up a mess that another attorney made because they were not experienced in workers' compensation cases. Okay.
Okay.
And unlike other cases that we handle, you know, the North Carolina bar, the folks that regulate, let's call it the attorney police.
Okay.
They have created a specialization for workers' compensation. And
A board
a
certification.
board certification. You know, Whit Whitley at the firm is board certified in workers' comp, and so you know, everybody that we work, he's working under a board certified attorney.
Okay.
So you have that kind of experience to bring in
Sure.
cases like this because they're very complex. And if you think about it, think about what's at stake in a serious injury with workers' comp. If you're sitting there at the kitchen table, you're not getting those checks, you may not be able to return to that type of work. And if you've been used to heavy labor your entire life, that is a big deal.
Right.
You know, if I've been representing folks that are in their 50s that have been working hard jobs, construction jobs, manual labor jobs, they are faced with an injury that's going to take them out of being able to do that. And, you know, and the insurance company's talking about trying to retrain them to go work on computers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so there's
Right.
a lot at stake.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you hire an attorney that is experienced, board certified in workers' comp, that you've done your homework, that you've gone online, and that you've read reviews and learned a little bit about that attorney's experience with the former clients,
Okay.
and then looked at their results. Okay, so a lot of law firms have ways to look on their website to see what kind of prior cases that they've handled, so that you know that they're up to the task, and that's very important. And I would invite anyone to do those with us.
Okay. And what would be the fifth trap?
Well, I'm going to just look at my notes, Drew, just to make
Okay.
sure.
One of the things about the fourth trap, the Industrial Commission, which is essentially like the court for workers' comp cases, changes more than probably the law in other types of cases in North Carolina because it's such a creature of the legislature. So having an experienced workers' comp attorney is so important in that regard because you really need to be up to date on what's going on with the status of workers' comp laws and with the Industrial Commission itself.
Okay.
And so the fifth and final trap that I see a lot of is going online to try to find information about how to handle your workers' compensation case
Okay.
on your own.
On your own.
On your own. So one of the things you have to be careful about on any information online, and doctors will tell you the same thing about going on to WebMD or some of the other online
My
programs.
doctors told me that too. Drew, stay off of that.
Stay off because you get
Yeah,
on there and
stay off of that.
you end up self-diagnosing
Yeah,
yourself, and
right.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Same thing with legal cases because everybody has, you have the law out there, but what attorneys do, you know, anybody I guess could look up and read the law, right?
Sure.
What attorneys do is they take your specific fact, what happened to you in your case, and apply it and kind of mix it together with the law to give you an opinion about what to do.
Okay.
Okay. So the problem is if you're looking at the law and you're trying to read online about things to how to handle your case, you're just you're reading the law, but you don't have that experience of putting it together
Okay.
about how it's usually going to turn out for you. So
Right.
sometimes clients will call me and they say, well, I read online and that I could do, you know, I'll stop them right there. You can't take that for any kind of advice about how to handle your case. All right. So that kind of goes back to the other thing that we talk about a lot on this show which is, I've got great news for you. I've got free advice. You can call. You can get free advice. You can call me. A lot of different firms, good firms that have board certified attorneys. You can call them too. Okay. You know, there are a lot of great attorneys in North Carolina that are willing to give free advice, and I would encourage anyone to call.
And there's a lot more to know about workers' compensation claims, more than just the 5 traps. Although we have those 5 traps now, we're going to be back to talk more about this in just a moment.